everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, we're talking about using an assembly line. How are we supposed to use an assembly line in the gaming space, Brad? Like, seriously, that seems like it has nothing to do with anything. Well, let me tell you about a guy named Barry Gordy. You see, Barry Gordy had read or heard about the assembly line. He had heard about how Henry Ford had used the assembly line. And he'd heard about how people had used the assembly line before that. And so he wanted to use an assembly line because an assembly line is not exactly what you think it is. So Ford, the automobiles, had the automated assembly line. It was something moving down one big, long, continuous chain, and they would do their thing until something popped out at the end. But that's not exactly what an assembly line is. Maybe you saw that episode of Big Bang Theory, where Sheldon was explaining the assembly line theory, where you do one task, I do another task, that person does another task, and that's the only thing we focus on. And that's really what I'm talking about. I mean, I've worked on what I guess could be considered an assembly line. I worked on a line. My job was to turn the screws and the bolts, right? And that's pretty much all I did all day long, every day. Just turn the screws and the bolts. And so how does that apply to you? Well, maybe you're not the best at something. Okay. Maybe you're not the best content creator. Maybe you're not the best video editor. Maybe you're not the best game programmer. Maybe you're not the best accountant. Maybe you're not the best manager or leader in your business. Maybe you're not the best at something, right? Well, turns out there probably is somebody out there who is better at that position than you are, and you may be better at a position than that other person. And so I've talked about having partners on this show, about bringing in people into your organization. That way you kind of have this good mesh of people able to work together and able to cover each other's, gaps. Well, here's the thing. You can do it in a much faster, more efficient way if you do it in an assembly line style, okay? Where this means where you sit there and you focus on just cranking out the one thing that you know how to do day in and day out, and you don't worry about the extraneous stuff. Too many businesses get wrapped up, especially small business owners. Maybe you are a small business owner. You know how many guests I've had on this show where like, well, what do you do at your business? I wear many different hats. And those people wearing many different hats have a problem. They have a lot of clutter on their head because they're constantly having to like switch out hats and try to figure out what they're doing here. Oh, switch to a different hat. I got to do this other thing. Switch to a different hat. And it gets really confusing. They start running around in circles. They like drop the ball here and there. Where if they could just focus on the one discrete task that they know how to do, if they just had to tighten the bolts, right? And they didn't have to ever focus on anything else. After a while of doing that one task of tightening the bolts, I went from like struggling to get the wrench onto these bolts to just not even looking at them anymore. I was thinking about other stuff, listening to the music in the shop because I had gotten so good at it. I was the pro at it. There was no one else in that shop who could do it better than me. Every business, every life, every family, everything could benefit from using an assembly line style structure in their organization, where you do one concrete thing, the person next to you does one concrete thing, and so on and so forth down whatever line you happen to have. Okay. Now, say it's only you. Well, if it's only you, then you should consider finding people to work with you. Is it hard to find people to work with you? Yes and no. The hardest part is starting, because you may sit there and go, I don't even know how to find anybody, Brad. What am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? I've been there. I understand. I know all the pain. I get it. Okay. If you go back and you listen to my show, all the guests I've had, many of them had never started businesses before and they had to go find people. Well, they all slogged through it too. You have to just kind of get through, put yourself out there, meet people, talk about your dreams, talk about why you're doing the thing you're doing. Somewhere, somebody's going to go, this sounds really good. Do you have someone who can blank in your business? No, I don't. Do you know how to do that? Yeah. Would you be willing to help out? I don't have any money to pay you yet, but as soon as we do, okay, that's how most businesses start. Someone is willing to show you some generosity, help you out, maybe take a cut of the company, maybe get paid later. But that's how you find these people. That's how you build out an assembly line, okay? You find the people who are already good at what they know how to do, figure out how to build a business that you have a nice workflow through all these different people, and then you just kind of put clients or products through this assembly line and have everybody do their unique part. So say you have a marketing person and a content person, and you have the merchandise person, and you have an influencer relations person, right? Well, you get your influencer relations person to work with your marketing person because that person's going to do all the promoting. You get the influencer relations person to get the influencers, take them over to the marketing person. The marketing person has to have the product from the merch person. The merch person has to have the right kind of content from the content person in order to sell the right kind of merch. Like everybody has their own unique thing that they can focus on. And when it all comes together, everybody's done their one little part, you have a complete product. And so many people kind of like, oh yeah, well, that's what I do in my business, Brad. Yes, you just didn't know you were doing it. And you may not be doing it as efficiently as you could be. Right? Maybe you have people all working on different parts and, they're kind of bouncing here and there between different parts. You don't necessarily need full-time people in every single position. Maybe this position has, say, 1,000 hours worth of work, but once it's done, you have another job that has another 1,500 hours worth of work. You don't necessarily need to take that person who did 1,000 hours worth of work and move them into the position to do 1,500 hours worth of work if they're not the best suited for that position. Why not have two different people do all that work, just have it all work in tandem? But that's neither here nor there. Every business is different. That advice may work for you, it may not work for you, right? So really, I wanted to talk today about understanding processes, about understanding workflow, and seeing your business not just as something that you have to get this done, have to get that done, have to get that done, but seeing it from kind of a higher level, looking at it from a bird's eye view, and understanding that you can put pieces into place that can get really good at their one specific task, and just have this flow from 100% suited for the task, 100% suited for task, 100% suited for the task, rather than having 50, 70, 60, 92, right? Where it's just kind of this hodgepodge of grabbing whatever you can get. I'm trying to say, find the right people for the job and you can accomplish anything. So I'm going to remind you all, organization is the enemy of sloth. Too many people, too many businesses, no idea how to actually run their business. They're just kind of winging it. They don't take the time. They don't stop and go, if I did this and this, and, I researched this. No, too many people don't actually take the time to figure out how to run their business properly. Take the time. It's called sharpening the axe, sharpening the saw, right? If you're going to chop down a tree, you don't go at it with a blunt axe. You want to spend the first several hours making sure you got a really nice sharp axe that when you go to cut the tree, there's absolutely no issues. That thing just comes down real quick. That's how the answer Abraham Lincoln gave when he was asked, how would you cut down a tree in so many hours, right? He would spend most of the time sharpening the axe and the rest cutting down the tree. Same thing with your business. Figure out how to sharpen the axe. What is that for you? How do you tighten things up? How do you make it faster, bigger, better, more profitable? And then implement. That's what business is. It's figuring out stuff and then implementing, figuring it out some more and implementing. So that's what I got for you all today. Don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.